Hello, I'm Simon Rosen. I'm an entertainment attorney based in Philadelphia. I grew up in New York. I was exiled in Philadelphia in 1983 for 6 months. I've been here 39 years. I have a special guest with me, Jacob Agar, an amazing singer. Jacob, come on over here. Say hi. Say hi to the
Hello,
camera. This
nice
is
to meet you.
Jacob Agar. He does classical and world music, and he has one of the greatest voices in the planet, and he's an arranger and writer. He's a spectacular classical arranger. He just did a Andrea Bocelli song called Caruso. That's spectacular. I'm proud to bring him. He lives in my neighborhood of Elkins Park, so we're 20 minutes away. We heard about the amazing, genius, insanely gifted students at Montgomery County Community College, one of the greatest assets of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. So it's a pleasure to be here. When I moved to Philadelphia, I got immersed right away in the music scene, which is why I stayed in Philadelphia. One of the first people I met was David Daskis, and David Daskis's name was David Ivory. His legal name is David Daskis. Everybody know that? I don't know. But and David lived in an iconic recording studio called Ivory Studios, which was in Royersford, PA, a geodesic dome studio designed by Buckminster Fuller, which in the 50s or so was iconic and legendary. It's a round, specially designed, acoustically amazing studio. So the quick story I'll tell you about David's studio, true story, is a couple of weeks ago, one of the greatest singers of modern history passed away, William Hart, fondly known as Poogie. And William Hart was the founder of the Delphonics, a tremendous R&B group in the 70s that one year was the #1 selling group of that year. William wrote with Mighty Three Music. Tom Bell was one of the other writers, and he wrote songs and sang tenor and falsetto for, he wrote Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time? He wrote La La Means I Love You, which was one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite songs. It was the theme of Jackie Brown. And he was one of the first people I met when I moved to Philadelphia, was William Hart. So one day, I'm 26, 27. I'm like your all's age or whatever. And William Hart calls her and goes, Simon, my buddy Maurice Starr, he managed a group called The New Edition, Bobby Brown, and he said, when they turned 18, New Edition turned 18, they were able to get out of their deal. In a lot of states, if you sign a contract when you're a minor, and when you turn 18, if you send a notice within a month or a certain period of time, depending on what state you're in, you can get out of your contract. It's called to disaffirm your agreement. So they left him, and he was in a funk and a depression. Well, Maurice Starr was an extra, not an actor, an extra in a movie called The Fish That Ate Pittsburgh, which I recall, I think Julia Serving was in, Dr. J, a comedy, a blaxploitation comedy movie, very funny film. And William Hart was involved as music consultant on that film, and I think he had a bit role in it. So he meets Maurice Starr. They become buddies. And a short time later, Maurice says, I found these white kids in the neighborhood of Roxbury, Massachusetts, the hood of Boston. I found these white kids. I've been depressed. New Edition left me. I spent years developing them. They just started making money. Now I have zero on them. They're done. But I found this kid, Danny Wood, plays basketball. Danny got Jordan Knight and John Knight, the brothers, and Joey McIntyre. We put together a group called The New Edition, which, by the way, made billions with the B, billions of dollars. So could you, William Hart, send me videos, VHSs of the Delphonics, because I really like their moves. I like your vibe. I like the style. William Hart calls me, Simon, I think this guy may want to be stealing my videos. He's going to put them out and sell them throughout the world. I go, William, I don't think that this is like the late 80s. I don't think like that the Delphonic videos are going to be worth like money for sale, like it's a live performance. And no disrespect, but maybe he's really looking to show these kids the video. So, we get the videos to Maurice Starr. New Kids on the Block came to Delaware County skating rink. 50 people show up. 1 year later, they did 4 shows at the Spectrum. $1 million guarantee. I was there when the agent had a suitcase for $1 million for the day show, the evening show, the day show, and the evening show. And I got a limo with William Hart, and we went to see the New Kids perform. They were the biggest act since the Beatles, since 62, 63, 64. We're talking 89. So I'm at the show at the Spectrum, and I'm backstage, and I'm in the green room, and one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen in my life walks by. But not only was she pretty, she had this like glow around her. And she didn't really walk. She just glided and just like floated. And I said, what do you do? She goes, well, I do this, I do that. I go, well, can you sing? She goes, I can sing in the shower. And I said, well, that could probably be arranged. But like, what do you do? She goes, I date Danny of the New Kids on the Block. That's my boyfriend. So I go, where do you live? She goes, downtown Philly. She lived in a studio apartment with her brother. She was like early 20s. So I bring her to a studio. I have her practice to a demo of a girl named Laura Mann, a local singer. And I bring her to a studio. So I just moved to Philly. So can anybody guess what studio I brought her to? Anybody?
Ivory Productions?
Iris Sound, yeah. Iris Sound in Royford. So Ida was her name. Ida Rosen. Her father was Jewish. Her mother's Puerto Rican. And she was spectacularly looking. She already was a model. But she had no money. She lived in like a tenement, beat-up building at 13th and Locust in Center City with her brother, a studio, her older brother. So when I get to the studio, I drive from Philly to Royce. It's 45 minutes. What do you got to do? I got to take a pee. So I'm going to take a pee. I'm in the urinal at Iris Sound. And David comes behind me and goes, Simon, and he's shaking me, and I'm peeing all over the studio. I remember it like it's yesterday. And I say, what's up, David? He goes, listen. So I'm hearing the Laura Mann cassette of Laura Mann singing, Stay Tonight, Stay Now, Stay Now, Stay Now. Oh, won't you stay tonight? So he goes, she can sing. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, Ida can sing. I go, what are you, an idiot? That's a freaking cassette. That's not. And he goes like this. He has it right with him. He goes, dude, here's the cassette. I'm like, what? That girl can sing like that? This is from the other room, from the bathroom near the studio. She's in the booth singing. So what do? I bring her right to New York.
Number one.
What? And wipe up the studio a little bit. Wipe up the bathroom. So I go to that Saturday, a guy named Mark Dean, who discovered George Michael. George Michael and George Michael's mother lived on his block. And George's first 2 demos was Careless Whisper, Never Want to Dance Again, Guilty Feet Have Got That, and Wake Me Up Before You Go. And he's in a group with a guy named Andy, whatever, Wham. And on that block, we grew up, is Mark Dean and his mother. Mark had a little indie label. And Mark is telling the story at a place called the Chestnut Cabaret, which is now what? What's the 38th and Chestnut?
It's Cunningham's, or like, what is that I forget it.
I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers there in like 92 or 93 with Herb Spivak's son, one of the Spivaks from Electric Factory Concerts.
I know Herbie Spivak.
Right. So Herb's son, there's Adam, and there's another. No, Adam is the nephew. His son Stephen, I believe. So, so Mark Dean's on a panel. It's a Saturday, sponsored by the Philadelphia Music Foundation that do the plaques, the Walk of Fame on Broad Street. And Mark Dean's telling us how he discovered George Michael and all that. So afterwards, I give him my lawyer card. I'm a brand new lawyer. This is right after I meet Ida and after the New Kids in Philly. And he said, come to New York. So I represented a woman named Esra Mohawk. Esra Mohawk was a Jewish girl named Sandy Horvitz from Northeast Philly who ran away to San Francisco, meets up with a guy named Frank Zappa, becomes a member of the GTOs, the Girls Together Outrageously, original female group that was Frank's side group. And she wrote a song in Philly called Change of Heart.
At my spot. She wrote it and then she recorded it at my spot.
She did the original at Walter Kahn's studio. I did not know she did it at your spot.
Yeah, she did it.
Right. This is David Ivory off camera talking. David's very camera shy. He's very camera shy. He has to take pills, to be in front of a camera, whatever. Plus, you can't see, but the naked eye cannot pick up that his blonde hair is finally turning white. But on camera, you can actually see that his, blonde hair is turning white. Yeah. Anyway, I meet Esra, and Esra writes this song called Change Your Heart. And we'll segue into this story about how the entertainment business is. So Esra writes Change Your Heart. Cyndi Lauper does it. It does number 3 on the Billboard charts. Number 3. 1 and 2 were Bon Jovi, and who do you think 2 was? Bon Jovi and who? Who was number 2? Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi was 1, and Bon Jovi was 2. Dead or Alive, I believe it was, and maybe Shot Through the Heart, and You're to Blame, You Give Love. I think they went from 1 to 2 to 1, and then Cheap Sunglasses. Dun-dun, dun-dun. Was that the Fabulous Thunderbirds or whatever? That Can't Get Enough of the Cheap Sunglasses. Was that?
ZZ Top.
Okay, so she never made it past 3. Esra, this girl from Northeast Philly with Change Your Heart, big hit on the True Colors record. Everybody knows True Colors, the big single. Well, I don't even want to get into this legalities there about Esra. I'll tell you this, if you summarize there's an expression, okay? 39 years in the music business. So picture this. Picture you're walking down a long, dark alley late at night in a bad neighborhood of any town in the world. Picture Jack the Ripper, London, and fog, and you're walking at 2 a.m. by yourself, and you can barely see in front of you. And you see alligators. I'm describing the music. You see snakes, and you smell like vomit, and you hear and you hear screams and all that, and you keep walking. And then there's the bad things about the music business. So those are the good things about but I'll tell you this. Picture this. Does anybody know what publishing is? What's publishing? Can anybody tell me what publishing is? Does anybody know? You've been talking a lot. What's your name, young man?
Me?
Yeah.
Pete.
Hey, Pete. What's publishing? Do you know what publishing is? Give me a guess. Give us a guess.
I probably couldn't explain it as good as you could.
No, I don't want my explanation. What do you think how would you describe, would you envision publishing to be?
I guess the best way I could describe publishing is getting something that you created. You give official credit for it.
Okay, let me guide you on this. Pete, come on camera. Come on.
Oh, no, that's okay.
You can't be on camera.
He takes the same pills.
Okay. So just keep your voice up for the okay. So Pete,
In fact, I'm amazed that he was speechless for a moment. that threw me off.
Right. So Pete,
Yeah, I was like, is that Pete?
if you and I write a song together, and I'm a lawyer, I'll say let's copyright it, right? So you and I copyright the song. Now we have a copyright, right? We're holding a copyright. The publishing is the house that we put our copyright in. So the copyright is just an intangible, it's a proof of ownership of the song. So now we have to store it somewhere to convert it into money. So publishing is the home for your copyright. It's a house, and it's the house that holds your copyright, so that it's your and how you do business for that song is done through that home. And that home would be Pete Music LLC or Pete Music. And Pete Music aligns himself with BMI or ASCAP. And it's the business mechanism for the publishing of the song. Now, let's say I write a song. And let's say I write a song with Jacob, right? Under federal copyright law, the way the business works, money goes to the publisher. That's the LLC that houses, that's the house for the copyright. By law, the publisher, by law, federal law, must take half of that money and give it to the writers, right? To give it to the writers. So if I write my own song, I'm the 100% writer of the song, my own publishing company gets the money, and then I pay myself, and through accountants, there may be write-offs for my recording expenses, my studio fees, my producer fees, maybe sample fees, mastering, mixing, whatever. I can offset maybe my profits. But there's the publisher and the writer. Well, in the music business, as a matter of course, there's also the administrator. The administrator controls it. So like, for example, if I own my own song, my publishing, I own it, but I don't have the connections or the juice to get it tops on Spotify or to get it viral or to get it into TV or commercials or film or to get to other artists to cover my song, I will hire an administrator. So the administrator controls the song. And generally the administrator controls 10% or 15%. But some administration fees are for 30 or for 50. And if you don't know what you're doing and just happy to get a deal, you sign it and you're giving up for no reason. Like an administrative fee could be 0 or it could be 10% or 15%. That's sort of reasonable. Generally speaking, is a generalization. Over that, for the right to control the song. Now remember, the right to control the song might mean I'm doing nothing with it because I own 500 songs and you're not one of the best ones and I'm busy with other people. I intended to try to get your song into radio or, into films or whatever. I just don't have the time, brother, or whatever. Or you're not paying me. Somebody else is paying me to get their music on. So with Esra Mohawk, she did a co-publishing deal with Cyndi Lauper. And Cyndi Lauper had her own publishing company called Rella, R-E-L-L-L-A. Rella, 3 L's. And ballpark, it was like 50-50. This is public record, right? Ballpark, it's like 50-50. So Cyndi Lauper, Change Your Heart made a lot of money. When Cyndi Lauper took in $90,000, she would generally pay Esra half, except she got an administration fee. It was like 10 or 15%. Why? Because she asked for it and Esra got her it. What did Cyndi Lauper do to earn the administrative fee? She cut her a check every 3 months or so. That's what she did. But there was a time frame that there was a dispute over the song. So Cyndi Lauper, and the dispute was what you call a frivolous or meritless dispute, meaning somebody made a claim. The recording studio that Esra demoed the song in, before she brought it to David, said, we had an oral agreement that if you shopped that song, you owed me half. The recording studio said that. So that like, if I let you use my studio for cheap prices or for free to demo your song, if you ever shop it and sell it, I get half of what you make. And that guy sued saying there was an oral agreement. The guy that owned that studio named Walter Kahn, Queen Village Studio, may Walter rest in peace. Not a bad guy, a good guy, and worked hardworking, and he was a friend of mine's brother. And he died. He had a lot of illnesses, and he died maybe 10 years or so ago. So Walter said, we had an oral agreement. The one problem is that when it comes to publishing, and it comes to a lot of things in the business, it must be, an agreement must be what? In writing. If you're transferring publishing or ownership of a song, it must be in writing. So when he sued Esther Mohawk in Philadelphia, I'm at Club Dobbs on 3rd Street in Philly, 2nd or 3rd. I meet Esther Mohawk. She says, I need a lawyer because they're holding up my Cyndi Lauper money over this Walter Kahn lawsuit. And the court in Pennsylvania threw out the lawsuit. They threw it out. They said, this is meritless. You can't get half. There's nothing in writing. It's an oral agreement. Yet Cyndi Lauper was still holding on to Esra's money. But Cyndi Lauper did what the contract said. The contract said, every quarter we're going to charge you a 10 or 15% administrative fee. So they owed her 70 grand. So in 3 months, they said, we owe you 55 grand. They sent her a statement. 3 months later, they say, we owe 40 grand. 3 months later, they say, we owe 30 grand. 3 months later, we owe 20. What were they doing to earn that money? They weren't paying her money. I'm not paying you the money that we're holding on to, and I'm charging you 15% for the privilege of not paying you. Now, that's another example of the wacky, wonderful music business. You know, it's like, it's a weird, experiment in just bad business. You know, the typical historical record deal was that an artist gets 10% and the label takes 90%. But are expenses taken off the top? The expenses come out of the artist's 10%. So an artist like Maya that I worked with for a while represented the father of Maya, M-A-Y-A, the R&B singer. She was always like $1 million or $500,000 or hundreds of thousands in the hole of the record company. They get the best producers for her record. She didn't need the best producers for the record. But if they spent $1 million on producers, she was like, almost like, I mean, she was much better advanced artist than Jessica Simpson. But Maya was never Beyonce. Maya was never Whitney Houston. Maya was never Lady Gaga. She never did those types of numbers. I think her biggest single off the top of my head was Voulez-vous Fouquet avec moi, the remake that I think she did with Christina Aguilera. And I think that was the original Patti LaBelle, that group. And she was always in the hole to the label, So I become a lawyer, and my first years as a lawyer, 9 to 5, I worked for a law firm. And from 5 till 2, I was in the recording studios. I was at clubs, looking at groups. You know, I was doing all musical stuff. And then, I'd be back at work 9 to 5 doing law and paying my bills and learning how to be a litigator. Some of my fondest stories. So I grew up in New York, and I stayed in Philly because of Live Aid in 1985. My dad died in 1985. I'm at Live Aid. Does everybody know Live Aid? If you don't know Live Aid, raise your hand. If you never heard of Live Aid or don't know. So you ever hear, if I say one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, what do you think of? Well, can anybody say what that was?
Moon landing.
In 1969, at like 2 in the morning in New York, you had Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. Every television in the world was pretty much tuned to that. We're on the frickin' moon. That was 1 billion people. Can anybody guess how many people watched Live Aid on MTV? Give a guess.
2 billion.
2 billion. Bing, 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 bing. 2 billion. And Live Aid could have been, they wanted it in New York. They wanted it in LA. Where was Live Aid?
JFK Stadium, Philadelphia, and Wembley Stadium in London, England.
Right? And when...
Phil Collins
and-
hired Concord to perform at both.
And so did, at the end of the show was Tina Turner and Mick Jagger. Ended it.
Too,
Yeah, so who was the promoter? Well, the guy that promoted the Philly show was Bill Graham. Bill Graham, who died in a helicopter crash. And the night before Live Aid changed my life because that's when I decided to stay in Philly. I was never going to stay in Philly more than 6 months. And this is now 85. I'm here for 2 years because I'm a New Yorker, but I went to law school in San Diego, and I planned to be in Southern California or New York. So the night before Live Aid, I'm walking on South Street, and there's a place, I think it was Downey's. I think it's on Front and Chestnut or Front and South. And they have like open air seating. And I look, I'm like, it's like 7 o'clock at night, the day before Live Aid. Bill Graham is sitting there. I couldn't believe it. And believe it or not, I have a propensity to talk. I'm loquacious, they call that. I can talk. Well, almost anybody that grew up in Pelham Parkway in the Bronx can talk. And I'm like, Mr. Graham, I'm Simon Rosen. I'm an entertainment attorney. Blah, blah, blah. Here's my card. I love you. Yeah, I used to go to the Fillmore as a kid. I snuck in. Blah, blah, blah. He goes, hey, how you doing? And we start talking. He's got the New York accent, and I'm like, I can't let him talk to Bill Graham. I don't believe he's talking to me. I think I'm talking to Bill Graham. So from the other direction, like a hippie dude comes, like long hair, beard, in like old clothes, dirty clothes, maybe overalls, and a guitar. And this guy's walking from the other side, like coming front street. I'm coming from like second to front. And he walks over to Bill Graham. He goes, Mr. Graham. He goes, yeah, I'm so-and-so. I hitchhiked here from West Virginia. He goes, oh, yeah, you're the one that dreamt you're going to open Live Aid. He goes, yes, sir. It goes, well, when you had the dream that you're going to open Live Aid, did you have a song in mind? I'm watching this dude. And he goes, did you have a song in mind? He goes, yeah, I have a song in mind. Well, can you play it for me now? He goes, yeah. He takes out the guitar and he plays a song. And Bill Graham goes into his pocket, and finds a business card. I do have a charity business card here, I think, right? I carry it with me this is an anti-cancer. Ollie's Orchestra for infants that are born with terminal brain cancer. They're born with it. So I'm on the board for that. And he takes his card and he scribbles something. He hands the guy, goes, nobody's asked me to open Live Aid. Nobody said they had a dream to open Live Aid. That song's good. Can you do that song tomorrow? Be here at like 5 a.m. Ask for this guy. This is where you're going. You're opening Live Aid. The guy opened Live Aid. And it was like amazing to be there. And not long after, Bill Graham did die. I think within a year or two, he had a helicopter crash. And he was an amazing man. And may his soul, live forever. It's living on right now. So I'm at Live Aid that morning. But a couple of years ago, a museum in Philly did an exhibit for Bill Graham, a tribute to Bill Graham. And I get a call from a dear friend of mine. She'd be an ally of all of yours. Her name is Cindy Drew. CYNDYDRUE. She's currently at MMR, I believe, or MGK. I think she's at MMR. She may be at MGK. She's an on-air, disc jockey. She's a fan of Philly. She'll help anybody out, answer your questions. Cindy is CYNDYDRUE. She used to do a Sunday night show playing local bands. I always sent her music. Occasionally she'd play the bands on major P1, major, market radio, Philadelphia. So we go out to eat. She calls me up and we go out to eat. PS and Company on Locust Street a couple of years ago, like a year or two before COVID. And she goes, guess what, Simon? I go, what? She goes, I've been asked to MC a tribute to Bill Graham. I tell her the story, and this is how she looks at me. Because I tell a lot of stories. I do have a lot of stories to tell. My life's been like Forrest Gump to some degree. So she's like, okay. So she called me like that night or something. Goes, Simon, I haven't checked, but I looked a little bit, and there's nothing about this guy being on the bill. It said Joan Baez opened up, and Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath opened up. The Hooters were there. These are the opening acts. Joan Baez, the Hooters, and this is from memory. There was nothing about the guy. I go, you better look, research it. And the next day, she called me up. There was a day she was giving the tribute to MC the Bill Graham thing. She goes, man, I'm so sorry. I really disbelieve you, but it is written that guy from West Virginia. So if you Google West Virginia guy, opens up. But that's the music business. That's the other side, the flip side, the beauty of it. So more people on the planet watched Live Aid, which is why I got into music. They call music the universal language. Music brings people together. That was We Are the World. That raised maybe billions for poor people all over the world, and especially in Ethiopia. There were millions of people starving. And that's the power of music. Way back when, I wrote for a magazine when they formed the Philadelphia Music Foundation that does the Walk of Fame. By the way, after they did the foundation for 15 or 20 years, the bigwigs at the top, they were all multi-millionaires. They really didn't have the time to commit anymore. So they took the money that they had saved and they acquired a chapter for the Grammy organization in Philly. Although they have chapters in Memphis and Atlanta and Chicago and New York and LA, but they never had a chapter in Philly. So Philly got its own chapter for NARIS, the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, which everybody should be a member, everybody should join. It's a huge networking thing. So Philly, got their start for being a foothold to support the Grammys and getting a voice in the music business. But the music business has always been, really special universally on so many positive levels, whether it's Bruce Springsteen, Bono, so many, Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson has a mule, a mule or a donkey. They're different. Mules are not donkeys and donkeys are not. And guess what? The mule's name is Luck. And who do you think his publishing is owned by? His donkey there's a trust fund for his donkey. And because Willie Nelson had tax problems, so how do you avoid tax problems? You have intellectual property owned by your donkey. And I believe it's named Luck. Luck Films is his film company, named after his. Al Green, famous guy in Memphis. If you want to really have fun, go to Royal Studios in Memphis. It's cheap. They have 100 gold records on the wall. Yeti, who just did the Beyonce records, #1 on the charts, who did Dua Lipa at Royal Studios in Memphis, records there. Mark Ronson did Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk at Royal Studios. Al Green did 50 gold records at Royal Studios. A great place to be. As I'm trying to get in a lot of just interesting tidbits there. So what was the last story, guys? What was the last story I was in the middle of saying? Anybody catch it? Remember?
The Live Aid.
Yeah, there was another story. Okay.
He was telling us about
Willie Nelson, Luck Films.
Yeah. So there's a guy that taught film and film scoring at Galloway. It's not Rowan College. What's the college in Galloway, New Jersey, by Absecon, Atlantic City? What's that? He passed away this past year. I forgot the guy's name. He ran that. They have a great program there, by the way. You guys can check it out. You should do a mixer with the people there. They do film. That guy there was Willie Nelson's partner in Luck Films. He told me about the donkey and about, we were talking about Al Green. So Al Green has a church up the road from Royal Studios, and Al Green's publishing is in Al Green's church's name. It's a nonprofit, so you don't have to pay taxes if it's in a nonprofit name, all that. So that's sort of like a roundabout way. I've been here 39 years. Rap and hip hop kept me in Philly. Music is music. When I was with the Philadelphia Music Foundation at the beginning, I interviewed people for their magazine. They had a monthly magazine. I interviewed a 20-something-year-old female pop group called the Heartbeats. It was 2 or 3 girls, and I interviewed them. I believe it was in Rittenhouse Square Park, and I said, "How'd you come up with the name?" And they told me something I never forgot. They said, "Simple." It goes, "How do you define when we're born?" And this is no abortion bullcrap. It goes, "How do you define when you're born? At one time, you're a heartbeat. If there's no heart beating, you're really not alive, if there's not a heartbeat. So the moment we're formed, that we have a heartbeat, all we are as organisms is a heartbeat. Ba-boom. 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 So for 9 months, All of you, I'm looking, nobody here was hatched. There's some pretty unusual looking people here, especially if I look in the mirror. Nobody was hatched. So for 9 months or 8.5 months, or, were you a preemie? I bet you were a preemie. No. For 9 months, how do you know? You remember? You don't remember.
I was.
That's hearsay.
I was
You don't
8
know.
pounds 7 ounces.
Okay,
so
all
it's
right,
a
all right.
baby.
Right. Your mom's still hurting for that. So 9 months. Right. So for 9 months, we're in a sack. We're totally in a sanctuary. And what do we hear? Ba-boom. 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 So whether you're African, Asian, North American, South American, Eskimo, that's why Latinos have the Latin drums and the Latin beats, and Africans have African beats, and Americans. That's why no matter where you are in the world, when you hear a dance song or you hear a song and you bop to the song, it unifies us all. That's really the base. And that's what these girls told me. I never really thought of it that way. So when we come out of the womb, we're already ready to. And when you see, you'll see little babies or little kids when they could first learn how to move or whatever, when they hear music, they're right. They don't have to be taught that. That's instinctive, right? That's why we're all here. So how about real quick, we go around the room, you say your name and you say what you do and why you do what you do, why you're in this whatever realm or lane you're in the music business. How about Jacob? What's your name? Tell everybody what your name is.
I'm Jacob Agar.
And what do you do?
Classical tenor. I'm also a cantor, so I'm a music director at a synagogue.
And why do you do what you do?
Because it's my love, my life.
My man, you're up. Your name is?
I'm Joe Nicotorchico. I get into recording and producing my own songs here, and I just do it for the love of music, really.
My man.
My name is Vernon White.
Up, keep your voice up.
My name is Vernon White. I'm an engineer, producer, songwriter.
And why'd you get into what you're doing? What stoked you to get into it? What motivated you to get into it?
There wasn't nobody really doing it. I was really the only one to do it.
Thank you.
My name is Ethan Todd. I'm an artist. Recently, I'm an engineer as well, just from being here. And what I do is anything extreme metal and avant-garde, especially electronics. And the real reason that I got into music because I want to explore the human realm and also want to try to get away from traditionalism because I just want to explore, basically, expand and create new sounds. I've been fascinated by sound as a young kid.
Thank you.
My name is Stephen Cush. I'm an engineer and producer, and I'm based out of Philly. And I do what I do because they say if you really love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So.
Amen.
Hi. I'm Peter Grevenchenko. This guy just stole my saying. I'm an artist, songwriter, producer, sound engineer. I want to change the world. I want to provide opportunity to people who, like me, didn't have opportunity to do the things that they love in this world. And I hope I'm successful at it.
Thank you. We have ability to get the other guys?
Gotta do the long term.
All right.
Hi, I'm Kyle Petrus. I'm an artist, sort of the whole umbrella of things. And why I do this? The beauty of the world is something that has always captivated me, and I like to share my perspective of that.
Thank you.
My name is Matt McGeary. I'm a EDM producer, songwriter. I really got into it because I just love sound design. That's basically it.
Right on.
My name is Yusuf Salah. I'm an artist. I've always been fascinated by languages, so I feel like music is just another language for me to explore.
Thank you.
Colin Foley. I'm an artist and producer. I get into this to bring people joy and to bring myself joy because it's like this is the best way I can make sense of existence, and the most pleasurable way to do it, in my opinion.
Thank you.
You got that.
Move around maybe so that you can see the camera.
Can you get her?
Okay.
I hate talking about big crowds. I'm Summer Sanders, also Summer Ashley is my artist name. And I just enjoy music, and I aspire to be like a Beyonce performer, and yeah, so.
Thank you. What about being a performer is most attractive to you? Like touching people, using it to better the world, or marrying a Jay-Z, or...
I mean, if you could get everything, that'd be great.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he likes her just for her personality, probably, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Evans. I'm an audio engineer and music producer. And the reason I got into this in the first place is because I could never decide on just one instrument. I had to play them all.
Right on. Actually play the instruments or on the computer, or did you actually play the
I
instruments?
actually played the instrument. My
Right
first
on.
one was an electric bass. And then ever since then, I just continued to learn as far as
And what's your favorite instrument? Is it still the electric bass to play?
drums.
The drums.
favorite instrument. That was my second one, and I haven't looked back since.
Because when you were in the womb for 9 months, you heard that a lot. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Yes, sir.
All right. I'm trying to make myself. All right. My name is Anthony Chaney. My artist name is Anthony C. I'm a producer, artist, a songwriter, engineer, and as of recently, I released an album called Therapy My Expression. And my mission with music is to bring therapy to people, and also to help people that are in need, that are depressed, feel alone, feel stressed, to really give them a tool to not go to the other side that can get you to a bad place. You can go to music that can help you and can really rejuvenate you as much as you can. And that's been my mission ever since making music.
Thank you.
Out now on Spotify and YouTube.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm Quinn, also known as Moose. I'm an engineer and a musician, and I do what I do because it feels like that's why I'm here. It feels like I was put on this earth to play music and to bring joy to people. I play drums in a band called One Sided, and pretty much every show we got people moving, and every time I see that, it brings my focus back.
My name is Aaron Snyder. I'm a sound engineer and music producer. Play electric guitar and bass. And basically, just music is the only way I was able to relate to anybody. So I hope that I can bring that to more people.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's great to hear you all. The beauty of what you all do is chances are nobody in this room can be a Tom Brady. Chances are nobody in this room, could be a guy that hits 60 home runs like Aaron Judge on the Yankees. But what happens in what you do is you all have the potential to be tremendously great in some capacity. And, when you shoot for the stars, you hit the moon. And folks that are doing what you do stay on that true path and work really hard. And you may bump into and collaborate with other folks that take you to levels you could never imagine, or walk you into situations that you could never imagine. And, there's always, the sky is the limit. There's always potential. And, it's a very positive outlook. And if the only thing you need, which is not always easy, is just to believe in yourself and to continue to believe in yourself. So I've spoken at a workshop, songwriters workshop, that's been going on since the 1930s. And I've spoken for a lot of years there. And what you do is, to a degree, a very, very, very lonely job. Like when you guys go home and go to your studios or go to your your Macs or your Logic or your Fruity Loops or whatever you're going to, Pro Tools. It's just you and the machine. You can't call your mother, your older brother, your cousin, your friend. Hey man, like can you if I'm building a roof, I build a roof or construct a house. I can call 70 other people that build a roof or construct a house. And then when you have rejection is really hard. Anybody that succeeded has had 50 no's. The vast majority of folks that succeed have had 50 no's. So you have to have the internal fortitude to be able to slough off that's not, every record label passed on the Beatles. Every record company on the face of the earth passed on the Beatles. Decca said they're a guitar band, and guitar bands are in the past. 1964, guitar bands are in the past, in the 60s. No more guitar bands. The Beatles got signed because they had a producer named George Martin. George Martin had a record deal with Parlophone Records, and the Beatles signed to Parlophone, and Parlophone had a deal with Capitol, and Capitol Records reaped all those profits, and the Beatles were pissed because Capitol Records said the Beatles sucked. Capitol Records would not sign the Beatles. So rejection. The story I'll tell you about rejection, which is exactly like the music business. I went to law school in San Diego, and there was this guy, not attractive, that was my next door neighbor. And every night I saw him with a different girl taking home a different girl, like every night. Because at San Diego, it's gorgeous, the weather. So at night, I'm sitting out on like a little step in front of the second floor of the side of a house, and he'd be coming up with a different girl. I'm like, what the F? So one day I see him in a club, and he's just walking around, like doing the rounds at the club, like he's a car salesman or something. And I said, dude, like, what's up? He goes, what do you mean? I go, dude, you're like, nothing personal, man, but you're like kind of average looking guy, but you got a different girl every night. He goes, I ask every girl to come home with me. And after about 70 something say no, one girl says yes. So every night, so think about it. On one level, his success rate is 1%. 1 out of 70, 1 out of 100 say yes. But yet every night, he's got a girl. So his success rate is, this is before you had STDs really out there too. So like, we didn't really have STDs. I don't remember STDs being part of the vocabulary. But you didn't have bad stuff going around there. But he always had a smile on his face, the guy. He always.
That was the STD. It was
no, those were the drugs from the STD, right?
That's the LSD.
The LSD, right? No, but that's the music business. So when a guy from Philly, Walter Kahn recorded what girl? Esther Mohawk, and who was the artist that put out Change Your Heart?
Cindy.
So the studio she uses, I said Walter Kahn, may he rest in peace. Walter had a younger brother who was an engineer. Walter spent a lot of time with Stevie Wonder, who spent his childhood in Philadelphia, a good part of his childhood, and many other people, Norman Connors. So his little brother Billy was an engineer, but Walter made millions. Billy didn't make millions. He was struggling. He still lived with his parents in Narberth, Pennsylvania, in a big house. So Billy says, dagnabbit, I'm going to be determined to get some pop songs together and try to find a young girl to record them and put them out. So Billy gets a couple of people together and they record 5 songs, pop songs, like top 40 singles. And Billy goes to New York. He reads Backstage Magazine. They said that Justin Timberlake's mother, Lynn Harless, is auditioning with a guy named Lou Pearlman, who discovered the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They're looking for girls for an all-girl teenage group called Innocence. So Billy brings these songs with him to just crash the audition, get into the audition and watch and find a young girl to do these pops, and that's his plan. Who does he find? A girl from Kenwood, Louisiana. What's her name? I mentioned her earlier. Who lived in Kenwood, Louisiana? She was 13 years old. She got dropped. The Mickey Mouse Club got canceled.
Jessica Simpson.
Britney Spears.
Britney Spears was from, right, Britney was from Kentwood. So he follows her out on the street. She's 13. Billy's 45. So Billy goes, hey, you're really good. I really like you. Like, you got something with you? He goes, I got a CD. It was Britney singing Mariah and Britney singing Whitney Houston. And she sounded phenomenal. She was 13 years old. That's a CD she brought to the audition. So Billy goes, well, I live in Narberth, PA. I live in Narberth. Would you come back with me? I live with my parents. She goes, sure. So she gets in his car. She's 13. He's a 45-year-old stranger. And because her mother put her on a bus from Kentwood by herself to New York for these auditions. She wasn't even looked at in those auditions. They just said next, next, next. He followed her out on the street of Manhattan. He brings her to Philly. His lawyer, Larry Rudolph, shopped her. His main lawyer was Larry Rudolph out of New York. And the first place they shopped her to was Tommy Mottola. And Mottola was the head of Sony. And he said, nah, we're not really looking for that type. It's not going to happen. She doesn't have it. That was Britney. The next place was Jive Records. She signed a deal for $75,000. She signed a deal for $50,000. Her second album was going to be $75,000, but she was going to be turning 18 shortly. So she signed at 15, and the record was released at 15. Jive signed her 2 years later. And she was a dancer. Britney was not a singer. Britney was not a singer. She dabbled in singing, but she was like a world-class 13-year-old dancer. She could do pop dance and as a dancer. So she was like 15, 16 when the Hit Me Baby One More Time came out with Jive. But Billy Kahn. I'm saying what it takes, how do you deal with rejection? Like if you think you're going to get, we love you, everybody's going to tell you suck. The biggest song in the history of Motown, everybody hear Motown? Who started Motown Records? Berry Gordy. So Berry Gordy gets presented a song by the Temptations. What's the song? Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Berry Gordy hears the song, goes, that's the worst freaking song I ever heard. That's not R&B music. That's cornball shit. That's cracker music. Crackers listen to that stuff. That's corn. My R&B singers don't sing that corny shit. Okay? So they go, well, Berry, guess what? Georgie Woods in Philly, the big promoter, heard it, loved it. It's on 6 stations, the biggest 6 R&B stations in America. He goes, really? Really? Without my permission? I'm dropping the Temptations. You're dropped. Get out of my office. This was at the BMI songwriter thing that Mark Freed did at the Algonquin in New York like 25, 30 years ago, that they got dropped. The next week, they're number 1 on the charts. That song was the number 1 record on the pop charts. Pop was Rolling Stone. Gordy calls him back. That little joke. Yeah, I was just kidding. Anybody see Jersey Boys? It was a Broadway show, and it's a movie. It's about the history of what group? What was Jersey Boys? Right, Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons. So they had like 20 top 40 hits in a couple of years. Then like a year and a half goes by, they have nothing. Remember, 20 top 40 and then nothing. So they're panicking, because they got their houses, their this, their that, their wives, their second wives, their baby mamas, whatever. And they got expenses, man. So they have a song, they're so excited. And they bring it to the label. They go, song sucks. It's corny. It's not rock. It sucks. Put it out. They refuse. This is the highlight. This is the end of the first act of the Broadway show. This is half of the show is about that song.
Pretty Baby? Was it that song?
No, that was their last song. This song was, you're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you, which has the iconic da-dun, 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 dun, 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 dun. Well, that's 50s swing stuff. That's not mid-60s stuff. It's yesterday's sound. As they say in the movie, the band raised the money and put it out indie, that song. That was their big comeback song. And their big comeback ended with, Who Loves You Pretty? Which was their, I think, highest charted song and the big number 1 on the charts. In other words, The powers that be say it sucks. The powers that be, all the powers that be said it sucks. So, like, what did I say? Harken back 8 minutes. I said there's one thing that you need. What did I say? You gotta believe. What did I say, guys? What did I say? I don't. You gotta believe. That's the only one that has to believe in you. If you don't, so I got this. I'll close with this, and I'll take questions. So, last July, I get a call from my songwriting group that there's a kid in Sacramento who has this amazing voice who got offered a 5-song deal from a group, a record label in England. So the father sends me a check, hires me, sends me the contract. The contract says we're going to own the masters. We're going to own the master recordings, and we're going to give you $500 a song. The kid was 19 or 20. We'll give you $500, and all the royalties we collect, we'll give you half. But if you want to sue us, we're in England. You're going to have to come to England. And how are you going to be able to, follow how much they're collecting on the songs? But he's 20, and sometimes a lawyer advises, give it a shot. You're a young kid. You could write 700 songs, Let's see what happens. But I said, don't do the deal. Don't do the deal. Now, normally, you know what a parent says? Well, can I get a refund? Because I hired you to negotiate the deal. You didn't negotiate it. You just said don't sign it. Why am I paying you? It was under $1,000. It wasn't that much money, especially for an experienced lawyer. But instead, the father said, thank you very much. I appreciate the advice, which is 75% of the time, the best deals you do are the deals you don't sign. Because then you're not locked into some bull crap that ties you up for years and years and years, or maybe even forever. If you give away a song, you sell a song, which you can do. If it's in writing, you could sell a song for $1, So anyway, so a couple of days later, the father calls him and goes, he's not I know he wants his money back. I know he changed his mind, he wants the money back, because that happens a lot. So I pick up the phone, he goes, we'd like to meet you. I go, well, you're in Sacramento. This is in July of 2020. He goes, well, we'd like to meet you. I go, you coming to Philly? He goes, yeah. So him and his 20-year-old son fly to Philly. They meet me at Iron Hill Brewery in Germantown, Chestnut Hill. Now, my kids are vegetarian. I am mostly vegetarian. I'm around people my age are all eating salads or tofu or grains. The kid orders a gigantic steak. He's gobbling it up with, he's from the hills of Sacramento. And he's a good-looking young man, has an amazing voice. He's a tenor and can sing falsetto. And we hit it off. And he says, I want to be Michael Bublé. I want to be like Harry Connick Jr., Michael Bublé, and the other guy. What's the other guy's name with dark black hair, has a beard? Not that pronounced as yours, but black. And he does the adult contemporary pop music, whatever. That's what he wants to be. And I said, why do you want to be that? Why don't you want to be a major pop artist, like an Ed Sheeran or a, John Mayer or something? Why do you want to be freaking Michael Bublé, like a Frank Sinatra? You're 20 years old. No, I want to be a Michael Bublé, whatever. So anyway, true story. A week later, it's my son's 27th birthday last year, and we're going to go to Chicago for the Blues Fest. We go to book tickets. Blues Fest is canceled because of COVID. So my son goes, let's go to Memphis. Go to Memphis because I had a friend who made a movie called Standing in the Shadow. No, not that was the other one. It was called Take Me to the River, about Memphis, documentary. Now they just did Take Me to the River, NOLA, N-O-L-A, about New Orleans. So Ryan, we saw the documentary, we loved it. We booked Memphis. We land in the plane. The first place we go, Sun Records. Sam Phillips, Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Sleepy LaBeef, Johnny Cash, did I say? I mean, amazing. 5 artists that all and Elvis Presley shaped the music business. So after the plane landed, an hour, we're taking a tour of Sun Records. And there's a guy, kind of resembles you, and he's got a real tremendous excitement in his voice. And he's telling the story. He's telling the story of Elvis Presley. That Elvis, lived in Tupelo, 2.5 hours away, and drove up to meet Sam Phillips, and Sam wasn't there. But Sam's secretary was there, like Edna. And Elvis looked so good. And he said, hey, baby, where are we going? So it's like, came over from 2.5 hours. So she sets up a mic, and she sets up a camera, and she records Elvis doing the song that he did, which was like, I Love You, Mama. It was a ballad. So they were doing rockabilly and boogie woogie and straight ahead slamming, shamming rock and roll music. And all like this rock stuff. So Sam Phillips hears the demo that Elvis cut live in that. He goes, this is crap. Like, forget about that kid. Well, he's really good looking. He got a career. Forget it. We don't do that. It's his Sun Records. Johnny Cash and, and all these other people. Don't put on my blue suede shoes. That was Carl Perkins. Don't step on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything. You can do anything in the world, but don't step on my blue suede shoes, So Elvis comes back a month or two later. This is what the guy's saying on the tour. I just landed. I'm with my wife and my son. And we just landed. It's 110 degrees in Memphis, and I'm in Sun Studios. And this guy's taking the tour. Yeah, I'm taking the tour with this dude. He goes, so Elvis comes back a month later. How come you didn't call me? How can you never reach out to me? Look at me. I'm amazing. And they go, because your music sucks. He goes, my music's for my mama. My music's for my mama. Now, he comes in, it's a jam session. Sam Phillips is there with Scotty Moore on guitar, DJ Fontana on drums, and like it's Elvis's dream team performing. It's Sam Phillips's house band, and they jam. And they were doing dun 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 dun, basic rock, 145, rock jam. So Elvis goes, well, I want to sing for my mama. I'm singing for my mama. And they go, Elvis, it's all right, Elvis. Your mother will still love you, Elvis. And they're all going, Elvis, baby, it's all right. It's all right if you do rock and roll. It's all right. And one of them goes, it's all right, sweet mama. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's all bum, 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 bum. And Elvis goes, it's all right, sweet mama. And guess what? That was a top hit. That was the first song he recorded. So anyway, they're telling me this story. And I'm thinking, I know this story. I've been representing artists for 38 years. There's like a couple of artists. I've lived that story. Who is it? Who is it? And there's like 20 people on the tour, so I can't think. I'm listening to Elvis, and I'm thinking, who is it that I've lived this? So I go, holy crap. It's the dude from Sacramento last week that says he wants to do Michael Bublé. I looked at him. I said, don't do that crap. So I swear to God, in the 100-degree heat, I will leave my wife, I leave my son, and I walk out onto the 110-degree heat, and I call Jason Fonsolo, right? Call Jason Fonsolo.
All right.
Okay, come on, Jason.
1 moment.
Are we going to call Jason? Now, 99% of the time, if I call somebody, a father in Conshohocken, tell them to come here, they can say, how am I going to get from Conshohocken to North Wales or Bluebell? I don't have a car. Like, people are so freaking lame, man. They think success is going to be a meteor that lands on them like a plane lands in their backyard. But I call Jason. I say, can you get to Memphis? He goes, when do you want me to be there? I go, when can you be there? I'm going to be there in a couple of days. We recorded 5 songs. You guys want to hear one of the songs? Can that work? Will that work? We can do that in a few minutes. So anyway, that's like kind of magic. And that's what it takes. But right now, Jack, this kid, his name is Jack Fonsolo. We got him off of the singing that stuff for his mother. We got him doing other stuff. He's not doing his opera. He's not doing his lame, I don't mean lame, but it's not pop music. But you got to hustle. You got to believe in yourself. But Jack doesn't even believe in himself. He's very talented, but he records and he says, you know what, I don't want, he says, this has to be the first release. This has to be the first release. The day before, it's already in the system to come out on Spotify at midnight, Friday at midnight, Thursday, 11:59 and 12 a.m. Friday. He goes, I don't want it to come out. I don't like it. It's not a good song. How do you know? He goes, well, I asked my 2 friends. I go, well, what do they listen to? Luke Bryan and Chris Stapleton. I go, well, dude, or like heavy metal heads don't like it. All you got to do is believe in yourself. If Frankie Valli, Temptations, listen to everybody, don't put out pop as a Rolling Stone, don't do this, don't do that, you'd never be successful. So these are just a little bit of what my life's about. Questions, guys, questions. Questions, yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for being here. You're awesome. I really appreciate it, Simon.
I didn't send you my bill yet, so don't worry about it. All right, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's a split bill, though. We're good.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you. All right.
So I think, trying to think of the most concise way to ask this, could you just, in an umbrella fashion, like, I'll make it as simple as possible to make it concise. Like, if I'm an artist, I wrote all the music, all the lyrics, and I'm about to put out an album of a few songs. From the legal standpoint, where do I begin, and what are the key points to make sure that I hit in order to do the release properly and make sure that my work is protected?
So I wasn't fully complete about the copyright situation. So a song in legal terms is always referred to as the underlying musical composition. So a synonym for a song is a musical composition. Okay? And the musical composition, copyrightable part is the melody of the music and the words, also known as the lyrics. But there's another copyright involved when something is master quality, and that's called the sound recording, also known as the master. Now, the master could be the finished master, it could be a rough master, but it's the best quality product that you're ready to put out. Now, if I'm a regular artist and I go in a studio, if I pay for the studio and I pay for the producer's fee or have an agreement, I should own the master. So it's really important that when you go in a studio, even if it's this studio at a school, because there are colleges, and it might be here too, where they own the master. Because this equipment, they raised millions and millions of dollars for this, they may be paying back loans or whatever, or, I don't know. But if you record your own stuff in your studio, you most definitely should own the master recording. That's a sound recording. That's different than the words and music. What does that mean? Well, that means that if I take a song, I cover a song in America due to the freedom of speech, the First Amendment, believe it or not, if once somebody publishes a song and puts it out, you can re-record the song. You do not need permission. It's called a compulsory license. I can cover a Beyonce song or any song by re-recording it if I don't change the lyrics, change the basic melody. I can't turn a reggae song into a rap song. I can't change the complete essence of what the song is. I completely do a rearrangement without getting permission. But I can cover Yesterday, singing it like that, just you re-record, you don't sample any of it. Because any sampling involves getting permission from the owner of the master. So whatever you're doing, number one, you want to own the master. You don't want to, look, there's practical reality. If you go in a great studio and they say it's $3,000 a song for my producer's fee and the studio rental and my engineer fee, and there's no way on earth you can pay it. It's the only studio that you can make it like that quality sound. You can co-own the master, which means, like if I get a deal and a record label pays me $100,000 for the song, $50,000, I'll split that with you. But the goal is to own the master. Like whenever, you don't want to just give away the master. Like if sometimes you might sign a contract in the studio, say, I own the master, I co-own the master. And why? Because they're asking you for it, because you don't know better about it. So, so owning the master is really important. being aligned with a performing rights organization, PRO, that's ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. You can only be aligned with one performing rights organization. They collect for royalties for performance royalties. You really, really, really need to be registered with ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. ASCAP and BMI are 50 in one, half in another, or 12 in one, half a dozen in the other, and 12 in one. They're interchangeable. It's a relationship thing. So whoever's in your camp or whatever that has relationships with them, we can get callbacks and questions answered and whatever. ASCAP and BMI are like probably 90% or so of the business, and then CSAC, SESAC is maybe 10% of the business. But if you're a writer, you must be with one. And then as a writer, you should have a publishing company. So if you're an ASCAP writer, you must form an ASCAP publishing company. If you're a BMI writer, you must be a BMI publishing company. If you're a CSAC writer, you must be a CSAC publishing company. And to register as a writer is free. BMI may charge a little something to be a writer, but ASCAP may charge a little something, like 25 or 50 bucks. BMI is free, and I think ASCAP's free. ASCAP has to let you in, so that they invite you. You get vetted out a little bit. So you have to provide something to CSAC to be allowed in. And then the publishing company is another thing. Now, realistically, one of the problems with young folks are you're on the fence. Is this a hobby or is this a profession? Am I at the point where I'm like nobody said I'm doing it to make money. Well, I think, who said making money? One of you talked about making money. I think, was it you that talked about it? Somebody mentioned, to make money or whatever, be successful, whatever. But if you once you're committed that this isn't a hobby, anybody tell you this in all the years, maybe 45 people have said to me, Simon, I've been in the game for X long. If I don't make it by January, I'm quitting. Simon, if I don't make it by such and such, I'm quitting. Simon, once you say that, you've exposed yourself as a fraud, because everyone that says that does not have what it takes to be in the business. You can't have that. That's a defeatist attitude. In other words, everyone that's successful will never say that because they believe in themselves. If you have the ingredients to make it, you can't physically say, if I don't make it by January, I got to quit. Now, maybe there's 1 in a million where, God forbid, your wife has terminal cancer or you need to make money or whatever, but 99% of the time, there's no timetable for success. Everybody's success is different. Britney Spears got her deal immediately. Like, she signed with Larry Rudolph, and he got her a deal. The second place they went to was Jive Records, and her first record was $50,000. Her second record said $75,000, but she was subject to turning 18 and getting out of her contract. They just handed her a check for $5 million at age 17 years old. They said, Brittany, we know we owe you $75,000 for this second album. Here's $5 million. Stay with us. Will you stay with us? Are we good? She's like, as long as I get bubble gum and taffy and, I can, jump rope and do this and that. Yeah, she was happy, And then look what happened to her, She, success. When
she did it again.
When Britney's, I think, third album, she did like Slave for Your Love, and she had the snake, and she was wearing she was naked with the snake covering her breasts. Britney was groomed by Billy Kahn, the guy in Philly who worked with her for a year as a pop all-American girl, as an all-American girl pop artist, cheerleader, girl next door, simple country girl. And when Billy was out of the picture, they put that sex thing around her. And we had a meeting at Jive Records. I got Billy a deal with Jive Records as an A&R guy, as a talent scout. That was part of our deal with Jive Records, and that I was able to get for him. And we have a meeting at Jive Records the day that Rolling Stone cover came out. And Billy was crying like a baby that the girl that he created, they're whoring her out, like with his sex and whatever. She was still 17 or 16. and on the cover of Rolling Stone. And all the guys at Jive Records were running around the hall showing the Rolling Stone magazine, how successful it is, and all these, it's like the biggest selling Rolling Stone magazine. And all the people that cared about Britney were crying. They didn't really care about Britney. It was just about making the money, you know, guiding an artist. So, you know, you just believe in yourself. And if Goosebumps don't lie, so your goal, all of y'all, is to create music where you feel goosebumps. Because if you feel goosebumps don't lie. A guy named Tom Petty sang a song, Refugee. We believe what we want to believe. You believe what you want to. People deceive themselves. The girl that turned you down 300 times on a date, you still think she loves you. The only reason she's turning you down is she doesn't want to fall head over heels. She can't control her emotions or whatever. We don't want to face, or the girl that we break up with, that we try to go back to and win her back and win her back. You know, we delude ourselves, we deceive ourselves, including myself. We all do, you know, every day. It's just a thing. But, you know, you gotta just be honest with yourself and know this is right now. You know, like in the past, I might not have been ready or whatever. But, and again, you don't have to run the sprint in X seconds. You don't have to swim so far in X seconds. You don't have to lift 500. There's no Olympics of music. You know, last story. There was a group that was put together in Philly called the Village People. Anybody ever hear the Village People?
Of course.
A couple of black guys put together the Village People with a couple of gay guys from France, 2 guys best friends in France. The guys from France came to America with money and with song titles and concepts for, who said he's the EDM guy? Used to be called house dance. Who said they do EDM music? Somebody said they do. Right. So they were the first disco guys, Andre Bololo and Josh Morale. And they came to Philly, which had the sound of Philly, the biggest R&B hits. So they had 10 song titles and concepts for songs. But instead of being just R&B, they wanted to make it disco. So they meet Mighty 3 Music, except 3 different, one of the members was Phil Hurt. Phil Hurt did I'll Be Around. Whenever you call me, I'll be around. Whenever you call me, I'll be there. And they say, we got these Queen of the Disco, San Francisco, blah, 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 10 songs. And they pay them 50 grand a song or whatever. And they put together the songs with those song titles. And they put out a record called, what was the record called? What was the name of the band? What did I say the group was? They put out a record called The Village People, right? All it was a production in that room on Broad Street. It was a production in that room on Broad Street. No artist, no band. But they named it The Village People. It goes to the top of the Billboard charts. They go back to their drawing board. What do you got to do now? Now you got to do a second album. What do you got to do? You got to find the Village People. There was no Village People. So they contact like costume shops. They get the costumes they can afford. What are the costumes they can afford? An Indian, a construction worker. They audition them. The 5 guys that answer the ad audition. Some of them were the musicians, the session guys that sang on the first album. The cop, the Indian, the construction worker, you get the drift, right? The greaser, you know? So it's amazing. And they become the Village People, right? 2 of the biggest grossing songs of all time. Elton John. He's made hundreds of millions. He's written the greatest songs, right, guys? Can you agree? Yeah. Hell no. He's written the greatest music. Never writes the lyrics. Who writes his lyrics? Bernie Taupin. Elton John. Listen, man. Your first name again? Matt, if you were worth $100 million and you're going in the studio, don't you think you could write the words to your music too? Like, if you're worth $100 million, what the frick, right? But Elton John knows that there's a dude on the planet that can write better words to my music. So that's how important his music means to him. Because 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 300 years from now, he's going to be dead. And he wants the best music, so he gets Bernie to write his music. You know? So Elton John writes his own words. The guy from the Village People, right? let's see, how do you like these lyrics for one of the top grossing songs of all time? You ready? These are prolific lyrics. I could tell you, I can't write lyrics like this. Macho, macho man, I want to be your macho man. Macho, macho man, let me be your macho man. Second verse, macho, macho man, not let me be. I want to be your macho man. Macho, macho man, let me be your macho man. Third verse, macho, macho man, can I be your macho man? Macho. Victor Willis, that was the cop. The guy that showed up as the cop wrote Macho Man. He wrote In the Navy. I'm not sure. I think he wrote YMCA. I think it's the fifth. It was at one time like the fifth all-time grossing song in the music business. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that you need a degree to be like the most eloquent lyricist for the lyrics? You know, are you kidding me?
Tells me it's fun to stay at the YMCA.
And it's played at the seventh inning stretch at every baseball. Every time they play at that stadium, ka-ching, ka-ching, public performance of music. The other thing I'll tell you, sound exchange. Everybody should register. If you own your master, you register your record label, a production company with sound exchange. Two ways to form a sound to register a sound exchange. BMI pays the songwriter and the publisher. Sound exchange pays the owner of the master and the artists, the featured artist and the backing artists. And we're kind of on time here. So hit me up with stuff, guys. Questions? Other questions? Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. I do know about Song Trust. Well, I don't really, I know about Song Trust. I neither can acknowledge it or not acknowledge it. It's they would like administer your music. It's like we talked about the concept of administration. We understand is they administer your music. They would control it, oversee it. Your contract, they would strive to get certain minimums and protect you that way. That's why it's called Song Trust, because you could trust in them to protect you so you're not signing away all your rights. I'm not sure if you lose total control. I've actually not recently done a deal with somebody with Song Trust. Generally speaking, I think, I may be wrong, but Song Trust may provide legal representation. So people with Song Trust may, Song Trust may give them lawyers or recommend lawyers or whatever. It's been a few years, I think, since, I've dealt with Song Trust.
So they don't count as my publishers because they take 15%.
Well, if it says co-publishing agreement, if it says administration, that means that generally they administer. It's the difference between co-publishing and administration is that with co-publishing, you're giving up a piece of your publishing. Administration, you're giving up nothing. You're just giving up a piece to owning a piece of your royalty stream, but they don't actually own. Something just in general, another really important concept in general, whenever you bring on investors, we have young people that bring on investors, the rich uncle, the rich cousin, the friend that made millions on cryptocurrency or whatever. Don't go to the friend that lost millions in cryptocurrency. He ain't going to give you money. But those people, whenever you get investors, don't ever promise them a piece of your company. You don't need to do that. Give them a piece of your profits. I'll give you a piece of my profits. There's no reason to sign away a piece of your company to people. Invest. Everybody, oh man, if you give me $50,000 for equipment, whatever, I'll give you 20% of my company. I'll give you 30% of my company. Give them 30% of the money that comes in, or give them their return on their investment plus 30%, profit. And out of every 15 cents that comes in or something, give them. You don't have to give up ownership because that's your baby. That's you. That's like you. It's like saying, you know what? If you make me a great quarterback, afterwards I'll cut off my arm. You can have my left arm. You don't have to give somebody a piece of you. Of what that's you only have one company, generally speaking. You all have one career in the business. You're not you can't clone yourself and have another you. It's all you. So why give somebody a piece of you? They don't need it. They don't know better. If you tell them, now if it's Mark Cuban, he wants equity. But Cuban is going to bring more, to the table as far as what he's going to bring. He's bringing more than just money. He's putting you in to succeed. He's dropping you in a lane to succeed. Questions? Other questions? How about from the left field here? Any questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
So, with the way like the music business has been recently, like the labels, I feel like have lost their reputation, kinda, and going independent has been a big like thing lately. And if I want to first get your opinion on going independent, and then if I were to go independent, would I need to? It'd be a good way for me to own my own publishing company and then do a deal maybe with a label for distribution on the side, so it's not like a full encompassing thing. Like I still represent myself, I own my masters and my publishing, and I just have a label distributed separately, and they don't take, like, you know what I mean?
So earlier I said everybody should have a publishing company. So everyone should follow the business path of doing that, of being planned to be independent. Nobody can put their eggs in a basket to not be independent. And when you made a comment about like the record labels and all that, I'll say this. In 1983, when I became a lawyer, there were like 30 major labels. 30 major labels. Now there's like 3 major labels. When Napster started and there was this thing called streaming and downloading, and by the way, up until 1999, there was no laws on the books regarding making any money from streaming or downloading. The Copyright Act of 1919, which was only changed once in 1976, streaming didn't exist in 76. So when Napster hit and there was illegal streaming and illegal downloading, there was no laws. Like who gets paid? Nobody. So hurriedly, Congress with a bunch of yahoos put together. Congress, what does Congress know about royalties and about the music business? They ushered through something called the DMCA. That's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. That's 1999. That has really not been changed mostly. There was a Music Modernization Act that actually Trump signed a couple of years ago. But there's been no mechanism. But the reality, 30 years, 1980s, there were 30 major labels. Who owned the major labels? Ahmet Ertegun owned Atlantic Records. He was into music at age 18. He followed musicians around morning, noon, and night. His life was music. Who owned Elektra Records? People that were into music. A&M was Herb Alpert. There was a Doug Morris. These are people that were professional musicians. Mitch Miller at Columbia. Clive Davis. They lived, eat, slept, screwed, dreamt, everything music. Today, Facebook owns the music business. Google owns the music business. TikTok owns the music business. There's the record labels. They're just pawns. They're just they're out for their scraps. It started big time with iTunes, because what iTunes did is it listed you just by title. When iTunes hit, when Apple took over, so I left out Apple. Apple, Facebook, Google, TikTok. Who owns Instagram? Facebook. I mean, when Apple started iTunes, every song, that was like around 05 maybe, something like that. Every song was 99 cents. Every song, meaning the song I Scratch My Butt to Sniff My Butt, the worst song written, was 99 cents. But the brand new Beyonce single, 99 cents. In what business, in the music business, when you go to a record store or wherever, even online, you go to one section to get the cutouts. It's called the cutouts, the 99-cent crappy music. But the hot new artists were always more money. Not with iTunes. And instead of looking at cover art, even albums, when iTunes, only recently did iTunes allow you to sell albums. It was all singles. And you know what people did? People were smart. They're like, well, if I like the Beatles, what do you got to do to go to iTunes, go to the Beatles? You got to scroll. Beatles, B-E-A-T-B, alphabetically, right, on iTunes. So what do? You form a group called the Beatnuts, B-A-T-N-U-T-S, out of Boston. Why? Because you might press play and because you scroll down, you think you're hitting the Beatles song, you're getting the Beatnuts. It was a group out of Boston called the Beatnuts. And I used to go to the Boston Music Conference. Somebody said they called them, somebody told me, so I heard it secondhand, they call themselves the Beatnuts because they were next to the Beatles when they started iTunes. So basically, the music business has been hijacked by people that don't give a hoot. In my opinion, it's just my opinion, CD Baby, DistroKid, they're not music business companies. They make money selling your information, your demographics, what you do, what you like. Orchard with Sony is an independent. They're in the music business, Spotify is in the music business, They control everything. If you don't have a lot of social media, it's really, really, really hard. You can't even really get on playlists, but you gotta, work social media. So going independent is definitely the way to go. Going to TikTok influencers. If Kim Kardashian is good at what she does, but you got to analyze how she got there. And how she got there is strategic alliances that get eyes on her. If the tallest, most beautiful, best tree in the woods falls and there's nobody there to hear it, it doesn't make a noise. If the greatest song, greatest album, greatest everything, like I said, the Beatles, if they didn't have George Martin that had the in at Capitol Records, So that Jack is out on Spotify. His name is Jack Fonsolo, and his single is called Do You Miss Me? That's the first single. But when we went to the top elite social media people or promotion and marketing people, they say, don't even bother trying to get on playlists. You're not going to get on any playlists till you have big social media. Once you have big social media, so I know like a dozen people with 1 million or so followers. And once his second single comes out, I will physically bring him to those influencers so they could post him on their social media. I represented a girl from North Jersey, a pain in the ass pop R&B singer, and she doing covers and posting them is a great way to get viewers and to get a buzz. And she did a cover of Nicki Minaj about 2-3 years ago. So she DMs her cover of Nicki Minaj. So she takes a video clip of her doing the video, I think in her bedroom, just doing it live, back to music, to a track that she created, doing her own. She's a white Italian girl, whatever, from North Jersey. So she DMs it to Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj writes her back, this is the best cover of a song anybody did. And then Nicki posts 59 seconds of it on Instagram. The next day, the girl got 1 million followers, added to her followers. 1 million. To this day, she has like 100,000. So she didn't keep them all. She was indie and she didn't really have a team to keep that level up. She could have kept them all if she continued to align with Nicki. But she was a tough girl, and said in her own ways. But there are ways to, to partner up. There's a 21-year-old producer from Philly I represented, and he DM'd a beat to a top, one of the biggest artists in the world, and the artist took the beat and put out the song. It was a #1 song. He got half the publishing and all that, and, owns it, and the artist was amazing. I brought the artist a gift. I was so thrilled that the artist was, anybody know who it is? Anybody know who it is or what? Yeah.
Are you talking about the phase flip one? The one, or are you? I might have missed the wrong one.
No.
Is he a rapper or is he a singer?
Okay. It doesn't really matter. But, the song was called I'm Upset. Let's just say that. The song was called I'm Upset. Anybody have questions? Any more questions? Yes.
I was going to say, all right, so say if you...
Keep your voice up.
Say if you produced a beat, like it was a minute ago, like a couple years ago or whatever, the business wasn't really straight. The artist kind of like got bigger, got signed, whatever the case may be, and you didn't collect on just anything, royalties, BMI, made a BMI.
How long ago are we talking?
Like a couple, maybe like 3 years.
Well, that's the general statute of limitations is 3 years. Like you're supposed to act within 3 years of, I mean, the answer is this. Number one, you said something, the business wasn't right. So why wasn't the business right? That's the first thing, because many times it's not uncommon that the one time that you mess up and don't do the paperwork is the only time in your life you're going to have a huge deal hit your plate. And that's the worst. That, I represented a homeless guy that wrote the lyrics. He carried them in his wallet because homeless people don't have homes. And he carried different lyrics in his wallet for rap music. And when he met a guy, then he heard a beat that worked it, he'd go, oh, can you do something to this? He'd do a song. And once he met the right guy and they record a song and the music was stolen. But the thing about a song when you copyright it is if me and any of y'all write a song together and we copyright it, we each own the entire song. We have a 50% interest in it, but we're like a team. We're one. So like if you own a house with your wife doesn't own the left side of the house and you own the right side. You own 50% of the whole house. And your wife owns 50% of the whole house. So if you own half of a song with a co-writer, if you write the lyrics and the music is stolen, you get paid because you own half the entire song. So you get paid. Well, this guy finally gets a guy to do the music, and he goes like, you know what? I'm not going to ask him to copyright it because he's going to maybe copyright it in his name. So what does the guy do? He sends his lyrics to Washington. And he copyrights the song, but only copyrights the lyrics. And that's it, which you can't do. You got to do your business right. So the moral is don't do your business right. You need a lawyer to organize. And the last thing, people always tell me, I bought this beat on BeatStars. I bought this beat on YouTube. I bought my beat. You're not buying a beat. You're leasing a beat. It's got terms and conditions. And usually those licenses for 30, 40, 50 bucks say you just got the right to promote yourself and market. But you can't, to
Release it on your own and
you got to negotiate it. Brian. So listen, I'm in a room here with aspiring producers, songwriters, and artists. This is an attorney. You want to sing something for us, or just give us wisdom, life wisdom to 20, 25 young bucks? What do you want to say, Brian? You're on.
If you saw me dance, I would probably be.
No, but life. Something you learned in life as a lawyer, a business advice to young kids getting into business as record producers and stuff. What's a like?
Okay. I would say, obviously, number one, follow your passion, right?
Follow your passion. Brian Credo, Kredo, yeah.
Bang. So, quote that.
Yes.
How's
That's
everything
what.
going? Everything all right?
I always say follow your passion. Don't mean pick up a bunch of girls on the street, right? You mean in business, follow your passion.
Only if that's your passion. But
No, that'll get you in trouble. Right. All right. I will hit you back. I'll hit you back in like a half hour, Brian. Half hour.
Good hearing
All
your
right.
voice.
Same here. Thank you, man.
It's an assignment. That's my second piece of advice.
Thank you.
Talk
Thank
to
you.
soon.
Thank you.
Okay, buddy. Okay, bye-bye.
Go the extra mile. Go the extra mile means get in a half hour early, leave a half hour late. Tiger Woods does it. LeBron James did it. It's what my dad told me before he died. I was 27.
One of my mentors always said, it's not the effort, it's the extra effort. That's what it is. Everybody puts out effort.
Was that Tarsia? Was that Joe Tarsia?
No.
Oh,
But
right.
it's the extra effort is really the point.
Which is like go the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'd like to thank Simon. What do you think, everybody? Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
David. Yep.
We have a very long relationship, and Simon is a straight shooter and a great guy, and I really thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Good luck to you all, guys.